Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome again to another episode of Sister Azra and Sister Saniha. Welcome. Today's topic will be how to raise our children, how to raise our girls to be more feminine, and to raise our boys more feminine, more masculine, excuse me. So it can be a hot topic, and you know what? That's the whole point of why we're doing this. We are not doing this to please anybody. We're doing this, inshallah, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to share our thoughts. So, Sister Azra, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Good to hear you, Saniha. Alhamdulillah, we have a new episode.
Yes, definitely. I'm very excited for this one because um I have opened up this topic in the past with sisters, and I get mixed feelings about it, and that's okay because the whole point of the podcast is to have an open discussion. Sister Azra, you could have different opinion than I do, and I could have different opinion than you. But subhanAllah, we're sisters. We love each other for the sake of Allah, and it's totally okay. So, going back to gender roles, Sister Azra, like I know you have two boys, mashallah, tabarakallah. Like what would you say? How did you start incorporating that when your boys were really, really young?
Yes, first of all, you said this topic is controversial, even in our community. And I think all this topic of gender around us also affects our community. So it's good that we talk about that. Alhamdulillah, yes, I have two boys. So of course, I didn't know much at the beginning, but by the time I learned that indeed, raising boys is different than raising girls. And since I'm working with other children, I notice even in the education environment that boys are different, and we have to give them a little bit different, environment, learning environment for them. So yes, they are different. I mean, in general, when we talk about raising children, boys and girls, we have to give them equally nurturing environment, right? We have to give both of them, emotional support, care, huggies and kisses, right? But when it comes to strategy in raising them, we should have a little bit a different strategy in that. So yeah, I did notice at the beginning, but I would say I learned something from, of course, learning from others, learning from books, and from observing that I needed a different strategy with them. So how about you, Saniha? How did you start it?
Yeah, so I have three boys and one girl,
MashaAllah.
mashallah. So I would have to say that, just like in the Prophet ﷺ told us that all kids and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are born with their fitrah. So they even know Allah when they're born. It's later on that parents tend to incorporate their beliefs and their ways of life. So yeah, when my children were very young, my boys were boys, and I really mean boys. And my girl was just a girl. Like you could tell a difference from the airplane. Um, there is no ifs and buts about it, and I didn't have to work hard at all. It's I would say that, this is where they're born with their fitra, and then when they started to develop a little bit more, especially around 5 to 7, go to parks, observe, depending how much I would have them interact with same or opposite sex. You could tell the difference, the way they're acting. The boys, they want to jump around. They continue doing so. I think for me and my family, it hasn't been a struggle just because both my husband and I, we have a very same understanding when it comes to raising our kids. Um, so it's very early age, if I will have to say. We didn't work hard in incorporating any gender role whatsoever. Allah already gave it to them, and they were just growing and doing their own thing. Alhamdulillah. The only thing is, I homeschool my four kids, so I would just do their lessons a little bit different. My boys, they're a little bit jumpy, so their concentration is not maybe not like my girl, which is totally fine. Subhanallah. I have one boy, he's very he can sit down for an hour, but the other two can't. And my daughter can definitely sit down and do artwork for hours. So that's what I did when they were very young. But now since they're growing, they're 7, 8, 10 and 12, they're different. They're getting to their personalities. And again, because my husband and I have the very almost identical opinion when it comes to how to raise our children. So our girl, even though she's tough cookie, I mean, obviously I'm her mom. I'm a tough cookie, but I teach her as much as possible to be more feminine. And there's nothing wrong being a tough girl, but femininity is what's desired of her because Allah created her as a woman. And for my boys, there's nothing wrong. They all have to wash dishes. There's nothing wrong with that. But masculinity is what's desired of him, of them, of my boys. So we try to promote that as much as possible. So then subhanallah, going when my daughter is teenager, our goal is to promote as much as possible, what is the role of, inshallah, one day when she becomes a wife, what are some things that she needs to learn and implement, and what is her priority when it comes to when she's a married woman versus now, and really embed that inside of her so she knows what her duty is when she does get married. And this is really important to us as well. I'm not saying we are not for college. Obviously, we homeschool so we can offer them the best education and the best mindset, inshallah. But at the same time, we don't want them to disregard why they're created and their roles and their responsibilities. So my boys, just like my girl, they inshallah will very much be taught how to be inshallah good husbands and how to treat their wives, so they are ready. And it starts from really young age. We believe that, you know, if you teach your children from young age, maybe starting as teenagers, as to how to serve your wife better so your marriage is better, and how to serve your husband better so your marriage is good, I think inshallah with Allah's help, they will succeed, and that's the success in life. Yeah, sum that up a little bit.
Mashallah, mashallah. Before we moved on to like a teenage years and where we can see a little bit more difference between raising boys and girls, I just want to mention something. Maybe other sisters, others will relate to it. When the kids are still small, right, very young, as you said, 3 to 5. Probably most of parents have problem with boys, and I know many parents they have problem when the kids go to school. They diagnose many boys with ADHD. They are hyperactive. Like my boys were hyper, really truly hyperactive. My younger one, when he was like around 2 years, 3 years old, I could not even go to picnics because he would just run around. It was so hard on me and my husband. Even going to the park was very stressful for me. So at home, they would, climb the sofa everywhere, kitchen cabinets and stuff. So maybe some of you will relate to it. So I was reading about it. I didn't want immediately to, listen to doctors or other people saying maybe they ADHD or too hyperactive. So I read a little bit about differences, how it's development different between boys and girls. And subhanallah, the some of the research says that among children aged 2 to 8 years, boys were more likely than girls to have a mental, behavioral, or developmental disorders. And and they say that's mostly because of the environment, the way how we deal with boys, because we are not all of us aware, in these differences. They even say that the brain of a baby boys even develop slower than brains of girls. So because of that, they also like attached emotionally more to mothers. Even like 2 years or more than 2 years, right? So that's one of the reasons that we have to kind of pay attention more to boys. And maybe you can also relate to it in our cultures, when fathers, they don't want mothers to show too much emotions to boys. They're like, don't spoil them. But actually, if actually boys, they need more expressions of emotions from mother, especially mother, than actually girls. That's actually very important for their development. So, if we don't know these things, we might see like, oh, they're spoiled, moms are spoiling them, or maybe they're ADHD and stuff like that. But I just want to say that this is a part of the development of boys. And, we should give them like a little bit more room to breathe than just diagnose them right away. And as you said, yes, then if we talk about teenage years, definitely we have to prepare them for their roles they're going to play in their life, right? It's not going to be fair if we don't tell our children like what will life be like, right? What are their responsibilities in their life, especially about the marriage. And I'm like you, I have the same opinion. Younger better, actually. I have some of my friends, they say, oh no, it's not, we should not marry them early. Girls and boys, they have to finish colleges and so on. I believe, and also of course by many hadith, that's saying that we should encourage our children to marry early, and that's beneficial for them. So what do you think, Saniha?
Yes, Pamela, going back to nurturing boys more, I think in my, I can speak to kind of what has been happening in my family is my boys are very clingy towards me, and then my girl, when she was younger, she was very, very clingy towards my husband. And this is not something that we did it by design. We didn't, not at all. But she really enjoyed Baba's like hugs and kisses. She enjoyed mine too, but I could see Baba's were much more needed than mine. And then my boys are very clingy towards me. And we just kind of like follow whatever their needs are and never push those needs away because mother instinct is real. I do not care what the mainstream talks about when it comes to nurturing the kids. Allah created us as mothers for a reason because the way we care for our children, no one can care for them. So I like to just nurture my children individually and as much as they need it. And no, I don't think it's considered as spoilage. My kids are now old enough, they don't need as many hugs, but I could see how beneficial it was. The fact that we give them the attention they needed before. So I would strongly encourage, when it comes to attention, for parents to never, never, never think, oh, this is too much attention. Because nowadays, poor kids, I mean, subhanAllah, they are left at daycares at 16 weeks. This is this is unheard of many years ago, and I get it. I get it. It's a must now. The women, a lot of them, they have to work. For those sisters that don't have to work and you still work, subhanAllah, Allah is gonna ask you why. Will question you for sure. If you don't have to work and you work because you just want to be out, then you're gonna answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for those who have to work for the means of providing, subhanAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you to actually stay home and be there for your children. Meet those needs of theirs, because one day, unfortunately, you will see the difference. The difference, those children who didn't get the enough of attention versus those kids that did, it's like day and night. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for those women who want to stay home, and for those who don't want to stay home but they can, to actually shift their mind and help them understand how important it is to actually stay home and nurture their children for at least few years after the birth. Amin ya Rab. And when it comes to marriage, it's like it's a no-brainer. The sooner the better. We're not talking about marrying your children, your young children. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about when your child, your so-called young adult, is ready, and you know when your child is ready to actually be a spouse, then by no means encourage marriage, because you know what, there is so much fitna out there, and it's just not worth falling into haram for no reason. But even beyond that, talking about gender, going back to gender, subhanallah, even before you can teach your child to marry, you have to teach your child the roles. And how do you teach your child the roles? Is you have to mimic, you have to be the best role. If you want your daughter to see what a good wife should be in the future, what is a femininity, then you need to embed that into her through your actions. And same thing with masculinity. Um, if you want your son to be the best husband, eh, leave that a little bit later, but first teach them how to be a man, you know, and how to provide, and how to help around the house, and how to help Baba with things like that men should maybe do around the house and outside the house. And then, and only then, you can teach them how to be good husbands and actually be able to take care of another human being. So that's just in a nutshell.
Yeah, what you said about the early ages and women staying home, as it's mentioned in the Quran that it's at least mothers should breastfeed for 2 years. So also the research shows that the first 2 years are so important for the development of the baby, and also that mother is the main factor there, and that the father's influence actually starts after 2 years. So that's to me was very interesting. um, how much are we important for the baby's development. Yeah, and when you said for the age, of course every family is gonna decide for their own children when it's right time to get married. But yeah, as I said, I work a lot with other children, and I notice with other families how much of responsibility we're taking from our children. How much we are, how they call it, helicopter parents, and trying to make easy for our children, but actually we're not giving them a favor like that. So I think they, in today's age, they are maturing much faster, and they are ready for colleges even earlier. Therefore they're ready for marriages also. And as you said, outside there's so much of fitna, and you know let's help our children to save themselves from that. And you, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a really different opinion. I don't think people are raising their children to be ready to get married, because we have now, children who go to school. The girls are trained to be very masculine, and the boys are very trained to be very feminine. So that's not a ready to doesn't scream ready to me. Ready is when they got their roles and they implement it throughout maybe their youth, and then they're able to get married. So like we have a lot of work to do as parents to kind of unwind what the schools have done for those parents whose children go to school. I've seen as a teacher how they read princess books, and not just princess books. Yes, they read princess books, but not just that. Superhero girls. It's flooded in school. Superhero girls. So boys are reading this, and they're like, they constantly are put down by this gender role because they're raised with girls being more powerful than boys. Whereas in Islam, actually, that's not the case. It's not that the girls are more powerful, the boys, we're just different. And this difference is not taught in schools. So while Azra, it's really like me and you, like my kids are not ready for marriage. Yet, not anytime soon, but your kids are old enough. Yes, you can say, oh, yeah, kids know more. Yes and no, because kids who go to school, their gender roles are all switched. That's why we have all these issues now with people don't even know what the gender they are. They're Z's, they are B's, they are Q's,
Mhm.
they are it's messed up. So we just need to go back thousands of years to just incorporate these gender roles first before you even think about your child getting married. Because if you have a daughter that's super masculine and she marries a man maybe that's thought to be masculine, mashallah, then how is she going to interact with her husband if she's very masculine and he's masculine by nature? This marriage is going to have problems. Because a man, fitra is that he's inclined more towards femininity, right? Or if a girl who's very feminine, she marries a more feminine, not a more, but feminine guy. Girls don't like that. We're very naturally inclined to masculinity and tough and rough. So, before even with, yes, kids are ready when it comes to their knowledge about certain topics, yes, but that's not what makes a good husband and wife. No way, because when you get married, the real life starts. And the real life can be successful if you get your gender roles in the places where Allah already put them. So that's just my opinion about that.
Yes, the good you mentioned for the things that the kids they read at school, and when some parents, of course they're gonna decide is the homeschooling for them or not. I just want to mention that, it's not schooling is, going to school is very questionable for many many reasons. This is one of the reasons. It's not only few topics that you're going to tell your child to have their own opinion and then go to school, right? But these ideas, this ideology is in every single lesson, in every single text they read over there. And if we go, if we talk about these words, as you said, like if we're gonna mention word to serve, for example, right? Like many of the Islamic books, they have been, translated to English, and the word to worship, to be slave of Allah, is translated as being servant of Allah. But servant is not the same as a slave, right? Slave is slave 24/7. Servant is someone who serves for maybe some hours, and then it's like a part-time job. So there's a difference. But in this Western, especially society, to serve or be slave of Allah, this is something like a big no-no. So, and then we have to talk about, like, with our daughters, about serving husband and stuff. Many even sisters will go mad immediately and say, what do you mean by serving husband and stuff like that? So all of these things, we have to pay attention. If kids go to school, that type of attitude is building up in schools easily. the young people don't understand what does it mean equal, but have different roles. So yeah, we are not helping them because they are going to have a lot of problems in marriage. Marriage is, uh, we have to work with our spouses. We, each of us, we have our roles, and we have to help each others. And if it says like to serve our husbands, is to help our husbands, to fulfill their role, and then they're going to help us to fulfill our roles. Nothing bad in saying serving, because our husbands are serving us at the same time. So good you mentioned that these things are very, very important, and they are sometimes very hard to notice. As you said, girls heroes, and in general, these kids, they learn. They watch movies, they read books. In every book, the hero is always not doing anything, right? And then one morning he wakes up and then he's super athlete. He plays basketball super, or he's best in school and so on. But these things are not happening in real life. So good you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yes, Kamla. I mean, this topic can go on and on forever. I think we're gonna continue this topic again next week or whenever we meet again. Definitely gender roles and how to incorporate it. Unfortunately, this was crystal clear back in the days, but nowadays it's not. We have been manipulated and brainwashed, and when you think about it, we're so busy day to day that the most important things sometimes they just slip away, and that's totally understandable, given the fact that we are just bombarded with information, with our jobs, with our duties. Subhanallah, I don't even know how some women do it because they have to work, come home, do everything at home, and then the next day go back to work. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for those sisters to actually be able to stay home and apply everything that they're supposed to apply for their children and serve their husbands better. SubhanAllah, it sounds so bad, but it's not. It's actually really beautiful. When you think about, you know, you married this soulmate, and you want nothing but for him to be happy, right? And then vice versa. He marries his soulmate and he wants nothing but her to be happy. Now, of course, we're not talking about abusive marriages with physical violence or verbal violence. We're not talking about that. That's totally another topic, and we condemn that. And Islam condemns it. So why would we support it? But we're talking about, marriage for sake of Allah, and somewhere along the way you're lost. And you're lost that you gotta go back now. You gotta go back. And this is why me and Sister Azra decided to talk about this topic, to just kind of shoot out a little reminder and kind of support each other on this as well. Because woman to woman, we can support each other and being the best version of ourselves. And of course, um, according to Quran and Sunnah, we should be more feminine. And if we do that, we should teach our daughters to be more feminine. And same thing with our boys. Our husbands should be more involved with our boys, especially when they are like from 8 maybe and onward. Have the fathers be very involved with the boys. Take them out, go on dates, show them masculinity, and inshallah, with Allah's mercy, they'll be able one day to be the best husbands because that's all we want, right? We want our children to not just be married but be successful. Um, so we don't stress, inshallah. And we don't want to drag this. Sister Azra, do you have anything else to add on this?
As you said, yes, we can talk about this topic, and inshallah, we can talk more about it because it's connect to many other things, which will be very helpful, I hope, for others. But yeah, for
Inshallah. So,
today, inshallah, yeah, I think we are about our time, right?
yes. Definitely, next time we'll take this topic further and maybe even give some few tips how to help your daughter be more feminine and how to help your sons be more masculine, inshallah. And also some of the taboo topics, and also talk about schools and how hard they are working to mess this thing up, our fitra. which is Allah's given rules and laws. They're trying to manipulate and change everything. So how do we go back to the Sunnah? Um, thank you very much for listening and tuning up. Stay tuned next time. Please, we would love your feedback on this topic and what kind of topic you would like to hear in the future. And without further ado, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.